Hey listeners, welcome back to the Skylight Book podcast series. We're starting a new series, which we're calling Is the Book Better? My name is Justin Reamer. I got with me Alan Traylor and Tyler Austin. We're
That's
all
me?
books. Yeah.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Oh yeah, we should be like, okay, I'm Justin.
Yeah. Oh, I'm Alan, yes.
I'm Tyler, and I don't sound like Alan.
Right. Yeah.
We are different entities entirely, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully our voices are distinct enough that you're not like, wait, which one?
Yeah.
Everyone's just talking at the same time. Yeah.
But anyhow, we're all booksellers at Skylight Books in Los Feliz, and our premise is we're going to be tackling film adaptations of popular books or classic books. And to be topical, our main subject today is going to be Paul Tremblay's book, The Cabin at the End of the World, and M. Night Shyamalan's film, Knock at the Cabin, currently in theaters. We're going to get to that, and this will definitely be spoilery at a certain point. But
fairly soon, I would imagine.
because there's some
to avoid.
there's some major stuff. But just so you're not immediately turning off this episode, we're gonna BS a little bit about films and books. Hopefully you like the sound of our voice. You check these things out, or you don't mind spoilers, and you'll check out the rest of the episode. So let's start off. Are there any sort of like primo movie adaptations where you're like, that really was a great version of the book, or this was a, just talk. Let's talk a little bit about this.
Let's
gents.
rap about it.
Yeah.
Pull a chair back. Well, one that comes to mind immediately is I've been reading all the Parker novels. Mm-hmm. A lot of them in order. You know this about me. The first one, which
Donald
is
Westlake, right?
Donald Westlake, under the pseudonym Richard Stark.
Right.
You can buy that in the store.
Oh,
My little recommendation in there. Look, plugs are starting early.
Yeah.
Great book. The Hunter is adapted into Point Blank, which is an awesome movie with Lee Marvin. John Boorman directs it.
Yeah.
I feel like it really captures...
Love me some Lee Marvin.
Oh, he is the perfect... There is no other Parker in my mind. That the moment you see him as Parker, that was it. I was done. I think in the movie he has a different name. He's
Is it just Marvin? Does he just go by his actual name?
Hello, I'm Lee Marvin. I am here to murder people.
Because eventually they try that with Statham, like he becomes Parker in like the 2000s or something, right?
Yes.
And everyone remembers and loves that movie.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's a winner of an adaptation.
Hey, look, the Staith can't be perfect all the time,
Yeah.
all right?
To answer our central premise, yes, the book is better of Jason Statham. But no, so I love that one. I think it captures what the spirit of the book is in a way that even the book, it almost expands on the book visually in a way that is incredibly satisfying. And it cuts most of Lee Marvin's style. He's just looking at people toughly. And I love it. So I would just throw that out there immediately off the bat. Yeah.
Nice.
I gotta say, Jaws is probably another great example. There were some choices made in that movie that differ a little bit from the books. That is just the perfect choice.
Jaws is a great one. I actually did a paper in my senior year of high school comparing Jaws, the book and the movie.
Oh, really? Of course.
Yeah, and was blown away as a high school senior. It was wow, there is more sex in this.
Yeah. Well, they changed the sex of one of the characters to get rid of that triangle of sexiness, which is thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God Jaws didn't have a fucking love triangle in it, dude.
Definitely reminds
Sorry,
me
I didn't mean to curse.
This is what
We'll
we
just
got.
have to put an explicit on here.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
First episode.
explicit content.
Yeah.
Much like the Book of Jaws, which it does remind you, it is a pulpy book where it's there's going to be sex. There's gonna be violence. There's gonna be a giant shark, and then you watch the movie and you're like, "What's Steven Spielberg is pretty good at this.
Yeah,
he kind of knows what should be in a movie."
Nice. Yeah. It's funny, sticking to the sort of genre crime area. I feel like there's my favorite guy in that is Jim Thompson. Just such a great pulp writer who also kind of pushes things to a Shakespearean level. And there have been a lot of great adaptations of his. Stephen Frears' The Grifters really nails it.
Yeah.
Bertrand Tavernier's what is it? Coup de Torchon, Clean Slate, which is Pop 1280.
Excellent
Great adaptation of that.
There, just
beautiful.
Beautiful French.
Merci. But on the other hand, his best book, my favorite of his books, The Killer Inside Me, has never had a good adaptation. The version with Casey Affleck, directed by one of the great directors, Michael Winterbottom, who did the Trip movies, who did 24-Hour Party People, was stumped by this. And maybe it's Casey Affleck's fault, but
Who can say?
but the movie is not better than the book of Killer Inside Me, which is just one of my all-timers. Also, like, the book to this day still has a blurb from Kubrick saying that it's like the most I don't remember the exact wording, but like the best portrait of like the logic of a psychotic killer, and basically like the thing that made him work with him on the killing and the other Kubrick movies. We're not talking about Kubrick.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe we glossed over The Shining. Actually, now that you mentioned Kubrick,
True.
It's a very, 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 very controversial adaptation.
And actually very apropos for today, because I feel like the one of the big things about the difference between Cabin at the End of the World and Knock at the Cabin is that the director's take on what the story is about and the author's take are very different.
Yeah.
And it leads the characters in very different directions.
Yes.
But before we get to that, why don't we set it up? So wait, we all basically saw the movie before we finished the book, right?
Yes.
We all had sort
Yes.
of like started the book, watched the movie.
I had every intention of finishing the book, and then life happened, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and watch this movie first, and then if I like that movie, then we'll see what happens.
Well, look, if you're in Alan's entourage on an AMC A list,
that's right.
just
It's
get
a
the ticket.
very poppin' entourage,
Ticket
by the
just
way.
shows up. And
Justin
you
is
gotta
on it.
go.
Yeah,
I
I just happened to get a ticket. I'm like, I'm not going to say no.
No, I mean, look, am I halfway
But-
through the book even? No.
I have to say, I am very, very glad I saw the movie first.
Yeah.
Because once we'll get to it in a minute, but like once you get to that deviation point, I was like, oh, this is why everyone kept asking me, what did you think? And I was like, it's got to be the same as the book, right?
It is dramatic. Well, that's the thing, is because like if you read even up to the 2/3 mark, you're just like, I don't get it. There's
It's
little
the same.
differences, but it's
Yeah.
the same.
I was going to say 80%.
Yeah.
It's like almost 80% the same.
Because that's true. Because like the final portion of it, like almost kind of like expands time. Like that's something about Paul Tremblay, anyways. That like his scenes are so much longer than a film. Like that was my first instinct. Like I had literally read 30 pages of the book before I saw the movie, and that 30 pages is basically the opening scene.
Yeah.
Like he's playing with the sort of so the opening scene is you have a small girl, Wen, who's been adopted by this gay couple, Eric and Andrew. She's playing out in front of this cabin in the middle of nowhere, and this giant hulking man. He's in the book he's supposed to be like 24 years old. In the movie he's played by Dave Bautista. Perfect casting, just the absolute right of like, you know, a giant Hulk with a soul.
Yes. I mean, he is like absolutely by far the best part of the movie. Hands down. I think it's like the best use of Dave Bautista I've ever seen in a movie.
Oh, yeah.
It is like...
I don't know. He's always so good.
He's
man.
always so good, but this truly channels
best
what is so
best
good.
wrestler actor of all time.
I know, question.
Easily.
It
No
is,
question.
and but also like this is the movie where you're like, oh, other people have got to start paying attention because he's an actor.
Yeah.
Like my friend actually tweeted last night. He's like, The Rock and John Cena are trying to be movie stars, but Dave Bautista is an actor. He is being an actor.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so that opening scene is just that out of nowhere, this giant Hulk confronts this little girl who's collecting grasshoppers, putting them in a jar, making little like, you know, scientific notes like a kid would make.
Message.
And like the yeah, no, there's 7 grasshoppers.
Yes, message.
Seven people in the story. It's like, I wonder if that's related.
Perhaps they're all in a jar being watched by another entity who, anyway, something like
maybe.
that.
Could be. Could be.
Could be. We'll get into it. Yeah.
We're just kicking a lot of cans down the road.
Yeah.
But basically, Tremblay is milking this for like 30 pages, and you're sort of like, I don't know what I think about this hulking guy. He seems kind of sweet, but what's up? And it's so funny in the movie when it's like basically like a 3-page scene, and then it cuts to like, hey, there's creepy people coming up.
Which feels correct. Like, immediately, like, if you're a little girl, you're like, I gotta go tell my parents that this giant man is in our yard immediately.
Well, I think one of the main reasons why it's a little bit different in the book, almost every moment is treated like a Rashomon moment, where it's like it's from everyone's different perspective, and sometimes that perspective is literally written in a different style and like all that kind of stuff. So it gives you a lot of like nuance into the characters, which the movie impossibly can't do.
There's especially toward the end. There's one point of view section that is just straight up Faulkner. It's just like this is. Like this is like
the
a
tense
stream
changing was like throwing me for a
stream
loop.
of consciousness. But anyhow, so the setup is there's the big guy. She runs to the cabin. Is like gets her two daddies. Is like there's someone outside, but then it's not just one person. It's four. And they all have these like homemade weapons, and they're like, "We need you to let us in."
Yes, they ask very politely. It must be said.
Well, that's sort of the ultimate trick of the movie, and in some ways, the book is just like everyone has sort of agreed we don't want to be here. This sucks for all of us, but we got to do it. Like it's like that begrudging sort of engine. That's really interesting.
Everyone involved is pretty much just resigned to being like, I have no control of the situation. You're not really sure why they're so resigned. They get into it eventually, but they start the thing off very much like, look.
Huge bummer.
This is not great for me. Look, man, I'm trying to teach kids.
I'm a piece of shit who works for the gas company, and I don't want to be here either.
I cook at a Mexican restaurant.
I'm either a chef who's kind of like fun and wacky, or like unhinged. Like depending on which version of the chef we're talking about.
Adrian was. I don't quite understand Adrian. That was a weak link for me personally. In the movie, it for sure. In the
movie, for sure, it was such a large swing. I mean, I believe she tried her best. Given the material, but like it just did not work for me in the movie.
So anyhow, like it takes a little bit more of a throat clearing in the book, but we'll just say it because it's in the trailer. The premise is these four people have come to say, we have been getting visions that a sacrifice must be made to prevent the apocalypse. And one of you three, either Daddy Eric, Daddy Andrew, or adopted Wen, will have to be sacrificed willingly to avert the apocalypse. And of course they react like, holy shit, there's some like...
I'm not doing that.
Homophobic religious nuts who want us to murder each other in front of them.
In both the movie and the book, they're like, whoa, it's not about that.
We are not homophobes.
I don't even know how you could have thought that.
We're totally agnostic.
Like, just above and beyond.
They're very honest about it, and then there is one character who we might find out had some other issues. Which I guess that's like, to me, is probably the first sort of turn of the movie as these things start to go, right? Or the movie and the book, I guess.
That's the thing is so. Another thing that's oddly characterized, and it's clearly an example of like someone talking about something that they've never read. There was something, might have also been on Twitter, where someone was like, the problem is in Tremblay's book, they're just people, and they never even mention that they're a gay couple. But like Shyamalan had the brilliance to make their gayness like crux of the story, and I'm like, what? That's in the book.
It's all
like,
there.
It's not like woke bullshit that like that they're a gay couple. Like the fact that they're a gay couple just creates this thing of like, is this a fucked up religious
It's
thing?
an added layer of tension that's purposely there.
Posing is like some sort of post-apocalyptic cleansing. And what I was going to say is that there's like the section in the book that the publisher has included, which is like notes from Paul Tremblay. Did you read that?
Dude, I couldn't believe that was in there. It was so fascinating to read.
There's a thing he says that is one of the key differences here, which is that in the book, Paul Tremblay's like, I never want you to be on the home invader's side. And M. Night Shyamalan wants you to be ambivalent to sympathetic to these people who really are having visions. And in the book, we're never quite sure that they're not deluded wackos.
I would say that's by far, well, I mean, obviously before the very, very ending, the biggest difference between the book and the movie is that there is just like an insane amount of ambiguity throughout the book in terms of like what's happening, and things that are declared in the movie that are turned out to be true are left sort of hanging in the actual in the book.
Yeah,
I was sort of the thing I was referencing earlier is that there's a character, Redman, who is it Andrew believes is someone who attacked him in a bar years earlier, and is like, he goes by a different name now, but they never like go to actually check his ID. Or do am I?
Yeah,
In the book they don't check.
In the movie,
Never
it's
actually
played
know.
by our
Yeah.
friend from Harry Potter.
Yeah, Mr. Grint.
Rupert Grint. Thank you. I didn't remember his name. Rupert Grint doing. Well, here's the thing that's funny: doing a terrible Boston accent. But in the book, it says like he's intentionally doing a bad Boston accent, and it's like, is Rupert Grint taking the note from the book and just doing a terrible job? But it doesn't play like that. It just plays like him doing a terrible Boston accent. I'm from Medford.
This obviously British person doing this.
I work for the gas
very very difficult. In the best of circumstances, accent.
And just really growling. Doing a lot of growling.
But that's something too. Is so like we never know for sure if Andrew, who in the couple is the more aggressive, the more sort of like impulsive one, that's just constantly like fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, in both versions of the story.
Yeah.
In the book, we never know for sure if he's imagined that this guy is the one who attacked him in a gay bashing incident in a bar.
Right.
Whereas in the movie, M. Night is like, no ambiguity.
Yeah, very
100%.
Although he does hold off on that reveal.
Yeah.
But then again, my boy M. Night is all about the reveal.
Yeah. So not a real spoiler. At a certain point, Andrew gets free. And when he gets free, he runs to the body, checks the ID, and is like, see, I fucking told you.
Yeah.
Which, to me, is so funny. Because in the book, that by never doing that, it does leave it ambiguous. And it makes you go, is he just imagining things? Is he like under so much stress but you're never quite sure, but it never puts you it never puts much doubt on the invaders. Whereas in the movie at that point, I was like, this is all fucked. This is all like, these guys are crazy. He should just blow them all away.
Yeah.
That like truly at that moment, it put more doubt into mine than just about anything in the book as it was being supposed to be played ambiguous in the book. Like, I almost think that, to the book's detriment in terms of ambiguity, it would have been stronger to have him go, oh, nope, I found his ID.
Yeah.
And he is the guy who attacked me. Because that really, for about 10 minutes, I was like, oh, this could go the other way.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. The book doesn't, like, even though its premise is, like, very sort of, like, tense chamber drama, like, doesn't, like, seems like it should just be, like, a pressure cooker the whole time. It's full of, like, weird little bits of gallows humor, like weird little thing. So it like doesn't maintain the same attempt at like constant tension like Shyamalan is doing. Like he basically cuts all, like, even gallows humor, he just cuts it, and it's just like people being as earnest in either direction as possible.
Yeah. Like in the book, I really like the dinner scene that they all have, like that forced like nighttime dinner scene they have. And in the movie, they just cut straight to the day, and they're like, okay, next question.
Yeah. And it's funny because like in the book they at least address like peeing, and they don't address that. Like that seems like a perfect moment for like awkwardness, and in the movie it's just like, if we move fast enough, people will forget that peeing is a thing.
It's a thing that has to happen over 18 hours.
Right.
And also like speaking again, there's a really great thing. So because the first scene we've had is the connection between Wen and Leonard, the big guy. Mm-hmm. Like there's a really nice scene the first night where they where like Wen and Leonard talk because they can't sleep, and like Leonard admits like, we're getting these visions and it's a vision from God, and immediately he's like, I shouldn't say God, they'll think I'm a nut bar.
Right. But
it's also the kind of thing is like, well, are you a nut bar, dude?
Yeah.
If you think God is sending you visions of
he is. The movie says he is. Definitively. Yes.
It's true.
That and the dinner scene are like, well, the thing is, like what Tyler was saying, it's like the book is more concerned with subtlety and like I would say maybe even dread, whereas the movie itself is all about just like, how can I make this a tense moment, whether or not whatever that means for the characterization and what's going on between them, their dynamic. I just want to make my Hitchcock tense scene, which is what he's always great at. It's like, I get it, but it's like kind of to the detriment sometimes, I feel like, in the movie itself.
Yeah, I agree. Like, if talking about what happens to the four of them, like, would you consider that a spoiler? Should I be like, spoiler?
Well, I think we already kind of dipped into it. We kind of like skipped over the first death.
Yeah,
actually.
So
we missed some of the crucial context.
Semi spoilers. So what happens is they're like, the four people are like, we cannot harm you. You have to choose to make yourself a sacrifice.
Yeah.
But if you don't make the choice, we will sacrifice one of our own, and then a plague of some kind will befall the earth, and it'll start Armageddon.
Yeah, they act as kind of like keys to releasing Armageddon, basically, or locks. Like every time one of them dies, like a lock is removed.
Yeah, exactly.
But getting back to your point about Shyamalan, it reminded me a little bit, speaking of another adaptation, of the adaptation of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which is, that sets up, is it 7 X's?
Mm-hmm.
7 X's. And the problem is, like...
Which I'm just now realizing is 7 Deadly Sins?
I think it's supposed
to
be.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Revelation right here. You heard it here first.
It's great.
But in that, like, the great thing about that series is that, like, each of the 6 parts has a night, because it's 7 X's, but 6 parts of that fake manga, is that there's so much story, and like it would make a nice little, like, 6-episode show or whatever, but the movie basically has to be like, what's the plot? All right, he fights 7 people,
boom,
and
boom.
we lose a lot of shading, and it's just like boom, boom, boom. So basically Shyamalan is like, all right, I gotta think of the way that these 4 people are dying, and I gotta get this guy gets sacrificed, this guy gets sacrificed, this lady gets sacrificed, etc.
Yeah.
And like that becomes a different spine, because I think when you're sitting, then you're just kind of like biding time, so you don't get the scene at dinner, you don't get the scene at night, because you're just like, well, we got to see them once again be like, no, fuck you, and then it's like, all right.
It also means you don't get the follow-up scene to the opening grasshopper conversation, which I couldn't believe they left out. I was like, when I read that in the book, I was like, oh yeah, they did forget their own metaphor that they set up in this movie.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Isn't that wild?
There's a moment late in the book where, well, middle of the book, I guess, where Wen like freaks out and is like, oh shoot, the 7 grasshoppers we put in that jar have been sitting out in the sun. They're probably dead.
My great thematic opening. What happened to it? Yes.
And they just
ignore
the as soon as
there's no time.
As soon as everybody goes in the house, like no one thinks about grasshoppers again.
They're too busy drastically re-altering the movie at the halfway point.
Well, also, so this is vaguely more spoilery, but like also like there are flashbacks in the film that relate to the book, but like definitely put a certain focus on the forming of the family. So the relationship between Eric and Andrew, and then their adoption of Wen. In fact, the gay bashing scene where Redmond hits Andrew in the head with a beer bottle, in the book, he's just hanging out with a friend.
Yeah.
But in the movie, it is literally they're having a discussion about like, do you think we're ready to be adoptive parents?
Yeah.
Bash. Yeah. You know, so it's like...
Well, I think it's like, it's doing the classic movie thing where it's like, it's got to merge a few things to make it work faster.
It cuts to the quick.
Yeah.
Certainly.
In fact, I kind of really like his like montage of like working through that hate in the movie.
Yes.
I like that version maybe even a little bit more than the flashbacks in the book.
I agree. That is...
Because it's like a weaponized version of like, this thing
Yeah.
brought me to this point and this is why I am the way I am now. It's like a great visual way of showing you that.
Yeah, because in the book, it's basically that he's from Vermont, so he's always sort of like been like a little survivalist.
Yeah.
He's known about guns. He's been a fighter, whatever.
Yeah.
But in the movie, it's literally after this gay bashing thing, he's like, all right, I need to be fucking tough.
Yeah.
Which is great, and I think that does really work. And I think like again, you're right. They cut to the quick of. It's a classic book to movie sort of adaptation move, where it's just like, it has to. We can't spend 4 pages talking about the sports.
Yeah, it's literally someone being like, "These 2 scenes are similar. Can we just merge them together, right?"
Put it together, and it's like we don't have to worry about.
And someone's like, "Oh yeah, I guess
the
that works."
hockey bar that's across from the old TG Garden in Boston. Which do we know is because every M Night movie's in Philly, right? Did he move this to Philly? Do we think it's Philly? Or like all the ones.
Well, then why keep the Boston accent?
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah.
I'm from Medford, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Anyway, I was always like, is this Philly? It's got to be Philly. M Night's big Philly guy.
Maybe the scene in the movie where they're like their parents come over.
Yeah.
Maybe
which I was surprised to learn is flipped. In the book, I believe it's Eric's parents. in the movie, it's Andrew's parents that are like, we don't approve of this.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely, again, also like synthesizes their things into like Andrew is now like
Right.
a guy who's going to defend.
It
his
seems like they're
family.
giving all the trauma to Andrew.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, you know what? I guess to propel his changes to the ending.
Right,
Which makes a lot of sense
Is
now.
total, and then
Yeah.
Eric is all about love and hoping that will eventually, and then together they're just like, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
which works. I mean, it does really work for the movie.
Yeah.
Again, I think the movie, you're right, it removes a lot of the shading, but like as an exercise in genre,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is like firing all.
Well,
on
I
all
was
cylinders.
going to say earlier when we were talking about adaptations, I was also going to bring up Annihilation, which is a book that I absolutely love, and a movie that I actually really like too, and they vary quite wildly. And I kind of want to, which is why I brought up the point why I'm glad I saw this movie first, is that I don't know if I would have had an open mind when seeing this movie if I had read that book first. So now I'm kind of in this quandary of like, I like them both for very different reasons, and I'm having a hard time realizing which one is better. I'm gonna formulate that point at some point, but
So,
like
yeah,
I'm
we-
not sure yet.
Yeah,
honestly.
we haven't formalized our thing, but like I think maybe at the end it's got to be like, did you like the movie? Yes, no. Did you like the book? Yes, no. Which was better?
Which is better.
So we got that. We got to keep.
Yeah.
I also don't know if I'm decided yet.
We're
Right.
gonna decide live.
Because there's definitely
on air.
That's right.
There's definitely. It's just like such a different tactic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should there be like a mark where we're like, let's really get into it, or do you think we're deep enough that we can?
Let's just start chopping it
Yeah.
up right now.
Well, so I
Okay.
gotta know, what is it about seeing the movie first? If you'd finished the book first, why would you have been less open-minded going to the movie? That's interesting to me.
When I read a book and I imagine characters a certain way, and I see someone else's interpretation of that character, it's almost always like, I don't know if I would have done that. I don't know why you made that change. Like the writer brain in me comes out and it's like, why would they change that thing? It worked fine in the book. I don't understand. So I think I would be too caught up in looking at the changes than just kind of like accepting it and seeing how the story goes.
Interesting. I actually kind of feel similarly, but I
Yeah.
don't think I would have thought that going into this movie necessarily, or at least having
Yeah.
like done it, having gone through the same way. Like I think having read both, I'm like, yeah. I mean, I always hate watching you track the change. It's distracting. Like if you're
Yeah.
seeing a movie of a book you really like, it's always like, oh, they moved this around, they did this. Actually, Miami Blues is a movie or a book I read, and then I just watched the movie, and I was like, oh, I infinitely prefer the book
Right.
because it does so. There's just things you can do in a book that you can't do in a movie. Like
True.
we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Or
All
shortly.
very evident in this
Yeah,
movie.
very evident things you just cannot do. But at the same time, I think like this one, it did make it easier, I guess, to just be like they stand on their own, and I enjoy them both independently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing is like not getting into the meat or the nitty gritty, the major change, the like what the fuck moment. I think that the movie is interesting in the way it characterizes everybody. Like everybody's characterized just a little bit differently than it is in the book.
They're kind of turned up a little bit more.
But also like Sabrina, the nurse character, who we weren't really talking. So like when they first come in, we haven't even talked about this. So when they first come in, they have to force their way in. The four people who've had visions, and they end up fighting with the couple. And Eric hits the deck and gets a concussion.
Yeah.
And so Sabrina, the nurse, like kind of patches him up a little bit, but it's not great. And he's concussed for the rest of the story. Which when we're getting point of view stuff in the book is really strong and really interesting.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I actually kind of miss in the movie is like, it's because like when it just cuts to that character in the movie, it's just kind of like, because you can't really
Yeah.
do so much.
Yeah.
But with her, like I kept having the vision of the actor in my head because honestly, and this might reflect Tremblay's sort of like distaste for the home invaders, I felt like she wasn't defined really at all for most of the book,
Yep.
apart from she's a nurse.
They're mostly defined by their overarching archetypes and their clothing they wear, like the color
Yes.
coding of it, which turns out is very important to him, according to his afterward.
Yes.
So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is it's
Well, that
interesting.
was the thing that was that was funny was when it said something about like the four horsemen of the apocalypse, the what was it, the white horse, the pale horse, the red. Anyhow, and I was like, oh right, he said something about Redmond wearing red, and yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, they're he's like, yeah.
Which
no,
can
they're the four
I admit
horsemen.
something real quick?
Yeah.
It was, I would say, embarrassingly late in the movie when I realized that they were the Four Horsemen. And that point was during the credits.
Wait,
or no, not
no,
during
I
the
was
credits.
gonna
No,
say,
it was
hold on.
during the moment where they actually explain it.
I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
be
yeah.
so worried for
Yeah.
you if that was the moment. I'd be like, were you hit on the? Were you also hit on the head
Yes,
during
yes.
this movie?
I was. I was concussed during the movie. Yes, yes. And I had an angel buddy next to me the whole time.
But also,
hard.
that's one thing that
Yeah.
I like. That I think is better in the book than the movie is that at least in the book it's just like they're the four horsemen. Like, don't worry about it. One's red, one's what because like M. Night is like, well, I have to explain who they are, and it's
Right.
like one was a teacher, one was a caregiver, one was, it's like
Which is
One is
clearly an
malice.
M. Night touch.
Yo,
Yeah.
big time. That is by far the most. Yeah, that is the most him thing in the
That's
movie.
probably
that
the
did
moment
not
in the
work.
movie that I hated the most.
1,000. It was
Yeah.
awful. I truly hated
It's like
that.
he got rid of all of his love, my love for him, after that beautiful cameo
Oh, that was
with
great.
that like truly,
oh,
yeah,
the fried chicken thing
Yes.
on the shopping network.
hands down his best cameo, maybe top runner for like top 5 best cameos of all time.
It was really phenomenal. It was really phenomenal.
So I was like, that was brilliant. And then that moment, which also, I must admit, I was also like, oh yeah, they're the Four Horsemen. But I was mad that he was right to explain it to a dumb person like me.
Yeah.
But I was also bummed that it was in the movie at all because I could have figured it out.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It was something
Probably.
about that whole, like, it's the extreme close up on like Eric's face as they're like spinning around in a circle together, and like it's just so, and then literally cutting away to things that the people did.
Yes,
while they were
it was a
alive.
whodunit moment.
It
It's
is
like, what?
insane.
This is a
It
different
was-
genre all of a
It
sudden.
was so like, it was so ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like Tremblay doesn't give them that much backstory, and like Shyamalan is like, what if the crazy chef is a mom?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
But that-
so yeah.
But that's also because of the sacrifices, which as I sort of said, like the spine essentially becomes like the three family members keep saying no.
Yeah.
And so then
Naturally.
the four horsemen have to sacrifice each other. And I'll tell you what, I kind of had to put the book down after. So Redmond, who nobody likes, especially in the book, they just keep saying like, yeah, sorry, man. Maybe he was the guy that gay bashed you because we fucking hated that
Yeah.
guy.
He was bad.
He was awful.
We did not know about that,
They
bro.
specifically say that when they start messaging, he would be like, they would ask us what we were wearing. He made crude jokes. He sucked. We hated him. Yeah.
But like the description in the book is so brutal. Like not that
And
he-
from multiple perspectives, like a huge
Yeah.
Rashomon moment of violence, and I was like, man, this is it was a bit much for me as well.
and then just the capper of Tremblay describing our giant hulking Leonard coming in and sledgehammering his chest to a bloody pool in the middle. I was just like, oh boy.
Yeah.
No wonder it was not nearly like M. Night doesn't shy away from like he makes sure everyone gets sacrificed real good, but it's like always just off screen or like just quick enough that like it's a cutaway.
And I will say this is the rare moment in which the movie is a little more subtle than the book, because in the book it's pretty explicit that they are kind of entering like a hive mind. They're not all themselves when the ritualized murders happen.
Yeah.
And in the movie, it's like they kind of are stilted, but it's not really explored. They're not explicitly said that, like, oh, I wasn't myself.
Right,
Whereas
yeah,
they
I
go
had
into
no
that in
control
great
or-
detail in the book,
Yeah. And
especially when Sabrina like goes through her thought process.
and the person and Eric, the father with the concussion, it's much more like in the book talking about him seeing an extra figure made of light
Yes.
when the first murder happens, and like him being like, I know I'm concussed, I know it might be a hallucination, but I think I saw a figure made of light join them during the first murder. And like M. Night basically is like glimmer.
Yeah.
And like
Right.
Maybe you saw that, maybe you didn't.
There's possibly a figure in there. I don't know. Yeah. He also describes in detail like feeling the presence of another person in the room, which is also like
He's
again, it's
also
hard to-
much more religious in the book.
Yes,
Which
yeah.
gives that a lot more context why he's willing to believe that Whereas I guess that's another example of the movie being like, nah, just be subtle on this one, I guess.
Yeah, he's just sort of general spiritual.
Yeah, he just sort of believes it instantly, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like we got woozy concussion guy and like angry dad,
Right.
and then like little girl who kind of like disappears until the plot needs her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, so
which
going back
makes
to-
sense now,
Yeah.
knowing the deviation. Because I was wondering through the movie. In case you're wondering, there's a moment in this movie where like basically Wynn is just in the background, like not doing anything, and I always wondered why, and it's because of this major deviation from the book, which I think we should just
All right,
we should
so
just get into.
so the biggest spoiler, the big what the fuck So
it's
I was
basically right. Yeah, we should do like the gun chase scene because that's when it pivots.
yeah. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
so I did not read I read this last because I had to work and stuff. So I read this last. I literally texted these guys last night, and I was like, "This is what fucking happens," and
Yeah.
they both like independently text back, "Yup."
As if we planned it. Just could not believe it ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So set up what's happening. Is the two fathers the whole time have just been like, you know, trying to loosen the ropes, trying to
Yes.
loosen the ropes, trying to loosen the ropes.
Classic home invasion stuff. They're waiting for their opening, and Andrew sees his opening. It's a little bit different in the book and in the movie, but the basic thing is that he goes to his car where his gun is held in his safe, and once he gets to his car, he struggles with Sabrina, and she kind of like more like in the book itself gets kind of taken over a little bit by this entity that may or may not exist. They struggle a little bit. He gets the gun. He fires off at her. She runs away. He goes back in. And at this point, it's him and Leonard versus...
Adrian is the other.
It's
Yeah.
Adrian. Adrian is going against Eric.
Oh, Eric. Yes. Yeah. And then, well, so.
Oh, and that's the other thing too.
Yeah.
Is Eric is whooping ass in the book
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
he's-
He's like
yeah.
holding Wayne in
Landing
one arm and
punches.
like punching.
Bam.
And he's
Yeah.
got the chair still attached to his leg.
Yeah.
And it's so funny
yeah.
because like in my head I'm picturing the actor in the film who's just like a sweet concussed man. And I'm
Well,
like,
when you push a man so far.
Yeah, he's just gonna start swinging.
Yeah, they're more. I mean, there's some deviation, but they're more or less the same. It's just a struggle for dominance and power and control of the situation. Where it gets different is in the book, Andrew and Leonard get into like a wrestling match, essentially wrestling for the gun, and the gun goes off in the book and kills their daughter, Wynn.
Yeah. From the point of view of Wen in the
Yes.
book, which is the most maybe disturbing thing.
Yeah, I
about
think
it.
her ending line is she felt nothing or thought nothing at all.
Yeah,
After
and
that.
No, yeah, it was
Wen
like,
saw
and
and
at
felt
that
nothing.
moment, yeah, Wen never saw again, never heard again, never
Yeah.
felt it. It was like, what?
Yeah.
And then I text these guys and
Yeah.
yup.
Yep. It is insane swing. It is. Yeah.
And obviously, the first thing when you make a Hollywood film, you're like, okay, we don't murder the child.
Sure.
Yes.
In the like end of Act 2 or whatever you want to call it.
But I think what makes it interesting is that the book itself is all about, or the book and the movie to that point are all about choice and sacrifice. In the book, they kind of take the choice and the sacrifice away from them entirely, and it just becomes about like, can we go on after this point?
Yeah,
Can we
right.
survive this impossible thing?
Yeah.
What does that mean for our lives? Like Armageddon is sort of like not truly the focus at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
It just
Whereas in the movie, like, no, it's still about the Armageddon.
it's still out
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's the thing that's so funny is like I was like, oh, did M. Night make up all this stuff about the various news broadcasts and whatever? It's like, no, the book just crams it in at the end because it doesn't care about that shit
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
M. Night
yeah,
is
yeah.
like, let me parcel it out. There's airplanes falling from the sky. There's tsunamis. There's but like that's supposed to be like the foretelling is like, see, it could be real. It could really be the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And by the point Wen is dead and we're learning this, it's kind of like, who fucking cares?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
it doesn't matter really.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Because
It's-
Wen is dead.
Yeah.
Our
It-
fucking daughter
that is
dead.
the apocalypse to them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It is
That's
an
their daughter.
immeasurable amount of
Yeah.
grief. Truly, from that point on, and it.
And so that's when I'm glad that I saw the movie first, because if I had read the book, then I would be like, wait, why is Shyamalan doing all these flashbacks that are about the relationship between the two dads? Like, there's so much about their bond.
Yeah.
Because what Shyamalan is still making is a movie about sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like he's making signs again. He's like this is a movie about sacrifice. This is a movie about loss. This is about the things that we must do to serve a greater good, to serve maybe the Lord.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is going back to everything. That this is a Shyamalan greatest hit.
Kind of. Yeah.
But Tremblay explicitly is like, no, this is about picking up the pieces after your personal apocalypse, and maybe they're not going to make it 5 minutes after the end of the book,
Right.
Yeah.
but Shyamalan was like, no, one of the fathers has to kill the other father.
Right, exactly. 100.
He's
That's
like,
the
no,
only way.
girl stays alive, one of these
Yeah.
fathers has to die. and genuinely end the
Averts
apocalypse.
The apocalypse, yes.
Right.
Which is
why Wynn has nothing to do in the movie, because there's literally no scenes for her anymore. They're just kind of keeping her around.
Yeah.
Well, that's like, even so you're saying, like, her grasshopper freak out could have easily slid into the movie.
They still could have done it. They forgot
because they have her
or they
freak out.
cut it out. I don't
They
know.
do like have a nod moment where Daddy Eric is like, hey, do you remember what you did at Thanksgiving, which was flipping out about Paddington? And then she flips out about Paddington, and it's like, have her flip out about the fucking grasshoppers. It's in the book.
Yeah.
But and that's really the last thing she does until the very, very end, I guess.
Yeah.
But I will say this, like, as I said, after you and I, Alan, left the theater, Wayne is given like the most devastating line in the movie. But I think maybe I don't want to like get that much, or should I? Should I just
get
say
into it.
Okay.
Search your feelings.
So eventually, what pays off is that the more religious husband, Eric, the one who's concussed, who might not be, might be fuzzy, but you know what? He's like, you know what? I'm sure that there's a future with you and our daughter, and you will raise her to be a great woman, and you will have that life. And
honestly, a very sweet, tender scene.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Shyamalan didn't do a bad job.
Yeah, no, it's a great scene.
I think it
He
really
made
works.
It's a wild choice,
it
but
really
it's
works.
He made
it still kind of works.
He made a different movie, but he did a great job.
Yeah.
And eventually, Eric has to be like, okay, Andrew, you have to kill me. I am willingly taking the sacrifice. I will be the sacrifice. And Andrew does it. Andrew goes to find Wen, who he's told to like run off to a treehouse. He goes into the treehouse. Wen is there with her head down, and she just looks up, and she says, "Did Daddy Eric save the world?"
Yes.
And I'm getting a little goosebumpy right now because
it's absolutely
holy
brutal.
Shit!
It's absolutely
holy
brutal.
shit! God, Shyamalan.
Yeah, it's great.
I mean,
The guy. I mean, it works. It absolutely fucking works.
Did I tear up in the movie theater? Yeah, maybe.
And
it was
I mean,
a brutal scene.
Yeah. And I mean,
and honestly, a great way to talk someone into sacrificing you, being like, hey, the future is still going to happen without me. It's going to be rough, but it's still going to be beautiful. But only if you do this one thing for me.
Right. Yeah. Because also I've looked up some Paul Tremblay stuff after this, and he's like, that to me is so much darker than my ending.
Right.
In which he fucking shoots a kid in the face.
Yes.
I mean, Paul Tremblay doesn't put himself in the
He
novel.
personally says, me, author Paul Tremblay, run in, grab a gun, and blow this girl.
That's actually the funniest thing in his notes at the end.
Yeah.
So the paperback edition has this quote PS section where he's got all of his like little bullet point notes on each thing. His comment at the end of that chapter is just poor Wen, as though he had nothing to do with it.
He's got a funny little sense of humor in his little afterword. I think it's more brutal. I think it's maybe I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think it is brutal because it's like shooting a kid, but it's such an abrasive thing. But the actual ending of having to actually make that sacrifice choice.
Yeah.
But at least you can rationalize that on some level. Whereas, like, truly in the book, and they get into it, that it's like they know it's an accident. Like Leonard and Andrew both have to like grapple with the fact that
they both blame themselves.
And will probably never be able to get over that anyway. I mean, Leonard's dead, but And then, and like,
Spoiler
and
alert,
if you're
Leonard
the
gets killed.
yeah, Leonard is killed. If they change that as well,
Another beautiful scene.
Oh my
with-
God, yeah. Batista gets such a great monologue in the movie.
Yeah,
But
it's so good.
keep going.
Yeah, but it's like I just it's hard to believe that like at least you can rationalize that you've saved humanity when you've sacrificed your partner. Or again, also you the person being sacrificed and you the person doing the sacrifice, like our daughter will live. Which
Yeah.
I think is ultimately like I think what M. Night is sort of driving at is that
Yeah.
like someone is willing to even beyond the idea of saving humanity is like I will save my daughter's life.
Right.
And when push comes to shove, if M. Night felt like he had to tell his wife to do that to him, I think he's like, you could do it. Right. You could kill me.
Yeah, going.
Which feels
Yeah.
slightly more hopeful than just like neither of us are gonna like our daughter's been killed. I'm gonna grapple with that guilt for the rest of my life, which
Right.
could be 5 minutes or the rest of the world. But
Yeah.
we refuse to cause each other any more pain, which is
Yeah.
sort of the ultimate choice at the end of the movie book.
Well, here's the thing that I wonder about seeing the film first versus reading the book is that I think Tremblay is trying to shave off so many details. He's trying to keep it so ambiguous and confusing and make the choices like seem less. Is that I think it seems in the movie that we've been given where we're given a little more three-dimensional characters, it just seems selfish, the choice that's made in the book.
Right.
But the book is still kept so fuzzy that it's like, well, we don't know.
Yeah,
and he leaves it with as I said, like maybe 5 minutes after they walk away from the last page of the book, total blackness, everyone dies, annihilation.
It's all cool. Yeah.
But
It's like an extra wrinkle in the book in that there's this whole thing of like, hey, I know Wynn got killed, but I don't think that counts as the sacrifice.
yeah.
So
They
you
didn't choose.
you still gotta kill one or the other.
yeah.
Which
Good
is
point.
very. The more I think about it, his is way darker. The book is way darker.
Him thinking
Because
that
that-
his is the less
The double down
brutal.
choices, yeah.
His choice is so much more brutal. It's so much more
It's
brutal.
Well, yeah.
insane, yeah. Well, and then to just kind of, I guess, really put a bow on how the book ends is then like, so Leonard is killed first by Sabrina, which is flipped in the movie, which is also different in different ways, where Sabrina is actually like shot by Andrew in the movie, which in the book
Right.
is Adrian, and so then Sabrina lives in the book to then kill Leonard, and then she's the last horseman to sacrifice herself.
Yeah, because in the movie, Adrian, she's this quirky chef who at one point is like, I have a kid and he loves to eat mac and cheese or
Pancakes.
whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, pancakes, right, pancakes. And it's like, is she full of shit? Does she really have a kid? And she
No,
gets
the movie's gonna let you know.
And
Yeah,
she gets sacrificed like the others. She's put in the ritual formation, puts on the white mask, and then we see them like put a fucking club through her head and quick cut away. And then later, is it Andrew discovers the picture of her and her son? And it's like, yep.
It's like, yeah, they weren't lying.
It's an insane moment in the movie as well. I'm not
Yeah.
just being like,
But
you have to know all these things these people said are true. Here's her nurse's badge. Here's his
But
employment. at the
it
gas
doesn't
company
really
card.
matter because they already know for sure that the Armageddon is
Been averted.
been averted.
Yes, exactly.
so
yeah.
it's like you don't need double proof.
It was
It's like
it was double dipping.
It's
for
like
sure.
of course they weren't lying. They were trying to save their own lives.
Which it
Yeah.
also is so crazy because in the movie it's like she literally brings like a framed photo of her son or something and leaves it in the car, as if like in this day and age she was just like wouldn't be like her phone lock screen or something. I brought this printed framed photo and I'm leaving it perfectly in the back seat of my
Yeah, the
truck.
fact that it was framed is hilarious.
It's a little weird. But I do like the choice. I do like the choice of swapping it so that Batista is the one
Yes.
that dies last because he's kind of
You
the
also
de
meet
facto
him
leader.
first. Yeah, exactly.
He's the most gentle of all of them, and he's the most troubled by everything. So him essentially being like, "Look, I'm gonna take my own life, and I think you guys got a few minutes after that to fix all of this, but I'll leave it to you, and I just want to die in peace because I'll be gone now."
Yeah, which I think was definitely an easy
Yeah.
choice to make because you don't. I mean, in the book you don't get much from Sabrina, and in the movie, I
Well,
think
and
you get less.
but that's the thing is. So what I was going to say is, so Adrian in the movie, she's quirky, but she's definitely a mom. Whereas in the book, she basically turns into a feral creature
Yeah.
who's about to like stab.
She has double
and
steak
so-
knives.
But it makes more sense in the books because they go way into more detail about something overriding their personalities.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's part of Sabrina's whole ending monologue thing, is her struggle with like knowing that is true and trying to fight it anyways,
Right.
and being like, fuck, I can't fight it.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
The sound and the fury section.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Total Faulkner. I mean, fine, rip off Faulkner.
Hey, it's a
whatever.
good guy to rip off, So eventually, right? So in the book,
Well, there's a lot of
Sabrina's-
homages in the book. Come
Yeah,
on.
well, that's
I
also
know,
true.
I know.
That's also
But I was
true.
I think it was more that I was just like so pleased that I got it. I was like, oh, I get this reference. It's the sound and the fury reference.
And here's your cookie.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
Very
Thank you.
good. But basically, she's the last one left in the book. It becomes a thing where she kills herself and then leaves him with the same thing of like, I think you have like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like you can either decide to sacrifice one or the other, or I guess the apocalypse is coming. She kills herself, and then they both make the decision: we will not do anything to hurt each other again.
Well,
Book
because
ends.
that's the thing is with Leonard basically precipitating the death of Gwen in the book, it so drastically changes who that character is.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he seems like an authority. He's the one who's sort of vaguely been put in charge by the visions everyone's been having, and he just like crumbles and like loses all authority.
Yeah.
Which also, like in the book, him being like 24 years old, like I think that's something too, is like, oh yeah, you were a 24-year-old who just happened to be a big fucking lunkhead.
Yeah.
But like Dave Bautista has such gravity and like that he has to be the presence that takes us through the whole movie. And like also he was just so up for it.
Yeah.
Like,
Like he's so good.
I mean, like it's stupid to be like Dave Bautista for Oscars 2024, but like he
killed it.
deserves something.
Yeah,
he's so good in this movie.
The moment where he's describing, because like a moment I loved in the movie, which I
Him
guess
and Eric and Andrew, I think, are
yeah.
an MVP triangle.
Yeah, Andrew's fucking. He was
Yeah.
really great. But is the
we
moment
remember
in
no actor's name
Yeah,
apart from
sadly.
Rupert Grint and Dave Bautista.
Well,
Sorry.
we're talking about characterization, not the people. all
That's
right?
right. That's true. That's true. The moment
Only the
where-
work matters.
Yes, that's only the work. The moment where Leonard is describing that he like works with youths, like endangered youths, and he's like the sound of their laughter. And I was like, holy shit, Batista
Yeah,
is
it's
just
brutal.
in the fucking zone right now.
Yeah.
And again, they do a great job, and I guess it's kind of in the book, but in the movie, I feel like it's like, they're also like, we want you to get to know us.
Yeah, I was
So-
going to say, I think it goes back to Justin's point of like, no, we're going to humanize the attackers.
Yeah.
We want you to feel bad for everyone involved.
Right. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
be doing this. And which Shyamalan's like an empathetic filmmaker. He
Yeah.
like wants you to feel for
Yeah,
everybody
it
in a bad
absolutely works.
situation.
Yeah,
So they all have to explain
With
like
the exception of maybe Adrian.
Yeah.
In both versions, I was like,
they short shrift her a little bit. Yeah.
But that almost
Sabrina, I get. Adrian, I don't know.
But also like now looking at the material, like it almost feel like that's a conscious Shyamalan choice to be like, what if I make her annoying and you're kind of like, I don't feel so bad, but then afterwards you're like, oh, but she was a mom. Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm not even sure if it's purposeful that she's supposed to be. I think she's supposed to be manic,
I'd like
Yeah.
to
but that
believe
comes
she's
across as annoying.
Well, it does.
Maybe.
Absolutely.
It's a good
Yeah.
point, like because it is also one of those things like, is this Shyamalan's
Because in the book,
idea
she has
of
like
humor?
wild swings.
Yeah.
Where it seems like some sort of like manic thing or episode she has in
Yeah.
the book. Whereas like that's translating that into visuals makes it look like the person's insane sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, she
Again,
had
she tried her
the-
best.
She has the first moment in the movie where I literally was like, this thing is working, and then
Yeah.
I rolled my eyes so hard. She has some line about how like, yeah, I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about this door. And I was like, what? Like,
Which
she's
is in the book, but yeah, it comes across really weird.
It lands with a thud in the movie,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh boy, okay,
Because bears.
yeah, door.
I mean,
could
I don't
be
know if she
broken
says the
and-
bears.
Well,
thing,
that's
but-
also kind of a holdover from the gallows humor of the characters in the book,
Yeah.
which they largely omitted
Yes.
for the
Right.
movie itself. So
Yeah.
it really tonally doesn't fit.
The only moment with her that I really enjoyed, and I felt like it was actually the only human moment from her, and all of them
In the
was,
film?
In the film, yes, was her going like, "I'm going to be honest with you. I'm like next on the chopping block. So
Yeah.
do me a favor here. Sacrifice one of
Look,
yourself.
we
so
could
I
just
don't
nip
get killed.
this in the bud,
Yeah,
please.
like just
Yeah.
do me a favor. I don't want to get bashed up like that guy.
Yeah.
Which I felt was like kind of an interesting.
Yeah, they're
choice.
mostly resigned to it.
Yeah. Where she really kind of struggles in the
Yeah.
movie, which I thought was kind of an interesting.
Whereas it's Sabrina that struggles the most in the book.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Where she's like,
She's, like, struggling with
didn't want to
identity.
do it, and then next thing I know, I'm on a cab to LAX.
Yeah.
Like I just literally blacked out. or
Well, and they
something.
also purposely set her up as like either atheist or agnostic.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a struggle for her to believe that someone more powerful than her is like behind the wheel. Jesus behind the wheel there.
I did also think like obviously it's whatever, but I did think it was funny that like in the book they're dropping specific LA references to be like, I was in line at In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah.
I turned the radio to K-Rock. And I'm like, come on.
Right, I was blasting
it felt a little
all
weird,
the
sure.
way home.
Well, but actually that's the thing too, is like was it Adrian who was like, oh, we're looking at the video of Oregon and that's the Goonies house getting hit by the tsunami.
Yeah, the book is way more dense with references, which I'm like, it's usually the other way around. This is interesting.
I preferred her just going, I saw that pointy rock. And I was like, much better.
Right, rather than being like, oh, that's the Goonies house. I saw that in a vision. Oh, no.
Which is meant to be like Andrew going like, oh, she just knows it from the Goonies movie.
Right,
That's
it's
a
meant to be another,
coincidence,
yes.
But it doesn't really...
I would say in both the movie and the book, Andrew's like unwillingness to believe that any of this is happening at a certain point becomes fairly unbelievable in both versions, where I'm like, the evidence though. The evidence.
Well,
though.
and that's the great thing in the book is literally where he like bashes the TV because he's kind of like the TV's giving you this is the evidence.
Yeah.
He's like,
unbiased.
I do not see that.
Yeah.
I do not see that. I break TV now.
Yeah.
I will say that was probably the biggest thing in terms of having watched the movie before I finished the book, is that it truly did color my like reading of it being like, well, so the apocalypse is real. Like even as it's supposed to be ambiguous in the book, I'm like, I was just operating under like, well, I think it's real.
And well, I guess that's a question. Do you think I think in the book it's still supposed to be fairly plausible that it is the apocalypse, especially the way Eric describes like him sort of feeling like which again it could be like, could this be the concussion? But like it feels like no, he's being spiritually guided by something.
Yeah. No, I think both properties are like, no, this is real. It's just their reaction to it. And I think the movie was like, well, if it's real, let's lean into it. I think that's the movie's choice.
And like give these people who are doing this an equally shitty thing like some time. And I don't know. By the end of the book, it's like the skies grew dark and there's like rain clouds and shit. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty apocalyptic, I would imagine. That's kind of how I would feel about it.
Well, it's like literally like lightning of death in the movie.
Yeah.
Whereas in the book, it's still like, oh, it's kind of cloudy. The clouds are weird, but it could just be a weird day. I don't know.
Right. Well, and also I think in the book they only say something like when the planes are falling out of the sky is like 7 confirmed.
Yeah. Well, then he shatters the TV.
Right.
Yeah,
whereas then in the movie it's like 300 planes have fallen out of the sky.
And then they literally see one.
That's right.
And it's like, do you get it? Do you get that it's happening?
This is totes for real.
Yeah.
Oh, he was so excited to put that
they
in there.
had a little bit extra in the budget. Speaking of him, though, when it's revealed in the movie that Redman is, in fact, the guy that attacked him, I thought for sure the M. Night touch was that they were all going to be connected to their lives in some way. And because I saw the movie first, I was like, that's probably got to be in the book as well. It's got to be some mention that they're all connected. And it's like, no, not at all. Yeah. It's just that one wrinkle, which I think is in the book purposely just to give you more doubt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I just could not believe that M. Night didn't run with that and was like, it's all connected.
Well, because
they're all connected.
That's the thing too. That's
you went to the hospital that she worked at. Like I could see it happening.
Exactly.
Right?
I know. Yeah, it made perfect sense. I assumed the same thing was coming.
Like in the book though, there's a lot more like sort of, if not infighting, at least arguing amongst themselves, where it's sort of like, wait, you remember we met on a message board, but you guys were already talking to each other. Are you sure that Redmond didn't put this idea in your head? What are you talking about? We have visions, blah, blah, you know.
Yeah, in the book, it's more the timeline of things is more important. Yeah. It's like, are you purposely infecting each other's mind with these thoughts, and then retroactively thinking you had those first, or what? It's way more murky in the book.
Yeah. Wow, we've been talking for roughly an hour. Should we get to our final summation thoughts, or does anybody have any other burning? I mean, I had some notes.
I had some notes too.
Oh well.
You know
let
what?
me
Let's just get into nitpicks.
Oh yeah, well,
because that's all my remaining stuff.
Okay, that's
It's
good.
just-
That's perfect.
it's just-
Okay.
I just immediately, I'll just lead that off by saying I hate the way that fire looks in movies now. It makes me angry.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
Oh yeah, because the house burns down in the movie.
As sort of a cleansing, like, oh, we don't have to worry about Eric's
Well,
body or whatever.
it's a different era.
burned
You
up.
can't set things on fire anymore.
Why not?
Like you used to be able to do in movies.
Let's just do it.
Well, because the planet's already on fire.
Oh,
You don't need more of
fine.
them.
All right, a small one though. A controlled burn is good. It looks so bad. It made me so angry. But anyways, that's certainly a nitpick
wow.
I had.
In both the movie and the book, the horsemen themselves are seemingly meant to suffer as well.
Yeah.
And I thought
I thought that
that
would be
meant they.
explained
Yeah,
or
I
something
thought
in
for
the
sure
book.
it's like, why them? Why, if they're supposed to be random, why is one of them maybe connected?
Yeah.
And I thought maybe they'd all, again, going back to the Shyamalan thing of like, I can't believe you didn't connect this. I was like, I thought for sure they had all done something wrong and that they were being punished
Well,
in some way,
Well, and that's the thing, like
but redeeming themselves at the same time by if
Yeah.
you can convince them,
yeah.
all is forgiven kind of thing. That was my
Also-
assumption.
Also that there is that ambiguous thing when before Redman is killed, he just says to the air, "Thank you,"
Yeah, it's
yeah.
so chilling in the book.
Yeah.
and it's just like what?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like I don't know if there's something in like Catholic dogma or something that we're missing. Like I was thinking about something about like the seven seals. Like maybe that in a way like these humans are like the seals that are being broken, but. And like Tremblay kind of like jokingly makes a passing reference to that. He's like, "There's 7 of them, like the 7 seals."
Yeah.
But I'm like,
And also in his notes, like they all have 7 letters in their names. I'm just like,
right.
man, this is wild.
but it's also like, but it's
good.
also like one of those things. Like I don't know that part of like Revelations or whatever well enough to be like, oh yeah, this links up.
Well,
Or-
I think
or
he's
riffing on
purposely
that. Yeah.
he's purposely being a little riffy and being like, it sort of doesn't matter.
Right.
It's yeah.
Which makes
It's just like it's supposed to be like vaguely this matches with everything, right?
Yeah. Which I will say, like in a little tiny bit of Shyamalanian clunky dialogue, there is the only explanation for like why it could possibly be this family having this happen to them. Leonard goes, "Maybe it's because your love is so pure," and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right, sure, I guess." That kind of works.
It's got to
for
be
me.
more than one pure family, right? Just
they're the only
one?
one. They're the only good one.
Were they the
They
closest,
gotta make
or
the choice.
okay?
It's so beautiful and pure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I thought that was kind of because there really is no explanation otherwise.
But
Yeah.
it is funny now that you bring that up. That like that kind of just washed over me. I was like, yep, that's more M. Night cheese. But just being like, clearly as a storyteller, he's like, well, there's got to be some explanation.
Yeah.
What if we try to float this?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
yes.
he as much as he leans into like, no, it has to be a definitive answer for everything. He still shies away at certain points, and you're like, just go all the way, man.
Yeah, you can again, do it. Connect everyone or connect something. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Should we get to final? Do we want to final thoughts?
Yeah, let's do.
Yeah.
Let's do.
We feel good
so
about it?
so we'll start with the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like it, Alan?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved the movie.
Tyler, did you like the movie?
Big fan. Really liked it.
Yeah, I liked it as well.
I love both the good and the bad M. Night movies.
Yeah.
Yes, it works totally. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing is like
And this got a little bit of both.
that's what
If I'm
I,
being
yeah,
honest,
I was gonna
it's got a
say,
little bit of both.
for the M. Night Shyamalan like tourist, it's sort of like you got a little from both columns.
Yeah, you got a little bit.
Yeah.
Justin,
You got some Unbreakable
did like
and
it.
some Glass.
Yeah.
No.
Yes,
For
you
sure.
are saying you liked it. That's right. Yeah.
So
Sprinkling
yeah,
of old in there.
Thank you for the setup, Tyler. Yes, no, I give this thumbs up for sure.
Yeah.
All right, book, Alan. Yes, no.
I also really liked the book as well. I wasn't feeling it at first because it was so much internal dialogue, and I was like, I understand why they cut this. This is really hard to show, but it does enrich how you feel about the characters, especially when you know that the book itself is more about not the Armageddon, but about how this choice or how these things in their lives affected them. The apocalypse just happens to them, and they have to choose whether or not they want to choose the actual apocalypse. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I love the book as well.
Nice.
Once I got over that initial shock,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, we're going in a totally different area here. I kind of sat it up and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the second half of this book way more than the first half.
I still, it's such a thought experiment. Like I
Yeah.
would really like. We don't have like a comment section or something, but I kind of want someone who read the book first and then saw the movie to talk about that because because I think this is the way to do it: is movie first. Well, this podcast first, then the
obviously.
movie,
Right.
then the book,
Yeah.
Then
Because
this
like
podcast
we
again.
come first.
Okay. Yes. Listen to us
And
again
last.
in between the
Yeah.
time you read the book and you see the movie.
because I feel like
times.
it would feel almost like a lot of the quirks of the book are being sort of flattened out for the movie, whereas I think in other ways it's just sort of like no, it's just all being shaped
Yeah.
in lateral, odd ways.
Yeah, again, the only other comparison I could think of is Annihilation, which is they're basically both this movie and that movie, and those like adaptations. They're both just kind of pontificating on the same idea. It's like someone having a pitch and then giving it to two different people and letting both of them finish it.
Yeah,
That's what it kind of feels like to me.
Definitely. Well, so I was
All
going to
right,
say,
Tyler.
we did-
Yeah.
let me stall real quick. No, so I was going to say, because I don't know if I actually asked your opinions on it. What do you think at the end of the book when they decide not to do anything? How did you feel about that?
I was kind of like fist pumping.
Right.
I was like, yeah, man, you guys got maybe the rawest deal
and they
of anyone, and you've earned the right to be selfish or just handle. It was like a little bit of a Butch Cassidy ending. It's like they're probably doomed, but because it's a freeze frame, we don't know. Maybe it's all fine. Maybe it's just fine.
I think mine was more complicated, but it also was because of the movie.
Right.
Yeah,
And I think I felt a little bit more of the selfishness in a sort of like, but what about fucking humanity, you guys? What
Yeah.
about like a billion people?
Yeah.
Right.
Like I know that your heart has been ripped out of your chest, but like it's gonna now happen to a billion people. So I was more ambivalent, but I also think that like the book is definitely written to be like, you know what? Sometimes you just gotta be like, let the world, like it's kind of Fight Club, let the world burn, and like this is. Living my life.
And the book has like what I think is a great ending line, which I'm probably going to mess up, but it's like they're talking about themselves, but they're saying we will go on,
Right.
and it's like
Yeah.
also implying that no matter what happens, humanity's probably going to go on as
Yeah.
well. It'll be maybe a little reduced.
Well, but that's
Maybe
also,
that's not a bad thing.
like we didn't.
No, I'm
totally
kidding. I'm
get-
kidding.
Culling.
We didn't totally get into that, but yeah, that last chapter is it. I don't know if it's totally successful, but it's supposed to be the conjoined Eric Andrew point of view.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of we's.
Yes.
So yeah, the last sentence of the book is, I think you're right. We will go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
That was very interesting. Again, when it came to point of view writing, that
And you
was
know
very
what?
interesting.
Actually, getting to that, yeah, that's a great last line. That is
It's
a great,
great, right?
last
Yeah.
line
Yeah.
for a book.
I read that and I was like, damn, yeah, he said it.
Yeah, they
All
got
right,
it.
I'm turning around. Fist pump.
That's right. Fist
Yeah,
pump,
yeah.
fist pump.
You know,
all right,
it
we
does-
stalled long enough.
Oh, no,
What's-
that's perfect. I just thought that would be something to get on the record because it is so different than the movie. And I
Yeah.
kind of agree. I think it totally works for the book in a way that probably would not work in the movie. Like that sort of, I understand. Well, I will say also though, and look, maybe I'm just a coward, but if my daughter was killed in front of me and the other option was, well, my husband can kill me and then he'll kill himself, I might take that one. Anyways, I also like the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, in
I
the
don't
book,
have to live with
in the
that.
book, Eric tries to talk him into it.
Yeah,
He's like,
right.
"Please,
So,
I don't want to go on with this." And he's like, "I can't. We can't do this alone.
Right.
Like, I can't do this alone.
Honestly,
we need to
you
do
were
this
so
together."
in Eric's mindset by the end of the book. I'm like, yeah, I totally get why this guy would be like, sacrifice
Yeah,
me, kill
please.
me.
I
His
don't wanna
brain
think
is like
this.
scrambled eggs.
Yes.
He's in
Yeah.
an immense physical pain. They both are.
I think the description of the concussion is so good in the book that it's a bummer that it doesn't translate to the movie.
Yeah, it's just
Like-
kind of fuzzy in the
Like,
movie.
like, give me like a 45-minute short film on Eric's concussion adventures, like, because it's so good in the book.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah. So your
So
take was
I
yes.
yes, I do like the book a lot.
Yeah.
I did like it for what it was. Yeah.
I do think it's a much more complicated experience than the movie, but yes, I also give the book a thumbs up. But here's the tricky part.
Oh, let me just also say that
okay.
I do love his like little wicked sense of humor thrown here and there throughout the book. I really kind of dig stuff like that. Sorry.
No problem. All right, but the tricky part, here we go. The thing that we've decided to name this sub-series after, is the book better? And whoever wants to go first, go first. I am definitely sitting back and waiting to hear what someone else says. Because this is real like lateral move. Like it's like what is your viewpoint?
Okay, I'll just go first. I'll just go with my gut instinct.
Yeah.
The book is better.
Wow. All right.
Interesting.
It's way darker to me, but I kind of love that about it. I love the positiveness of the movie, like the message it sends, where it's like, this thing is beyond us. It's more important than us. Like all of us working together, all that stuff. Lovely stuff. I also love the idea of being like, fuck it, who cares? Like we had our run. It's not about that. It's about us going on. Who cares about the world? Right. I think throughout the entire book, they're like, the world doesn't matter. This family matters. And the most important part of that family was taken unfairly from them. So they're just like, nothing else matters. It's just us two. So I say, gut instinct, the book's better.
The book's better. All right.
Yeah.
Tyler,
It hits hard. It hits harder for me.
Do you have a take?
Interesting. I think judging them both independently on what they're trying to do, I think the movie's better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's on the other thing is M. Night Shyamalan is a really, really talented filmmaker.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's just so much of it in the way that it is shot and composed, and like there's just so much to look at and enjoy,
Yeah.
and it's
The way he frames faces in the movie, it's
beautiful.
I forget who his
Yeah.
cinematographer was, but like the face, it's always in people's faces. It's
Yeah.
always so intense.
Because you're seeing that struggle on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really well done, and I think, not that I prefer the message of the movie, but I do think it gets to that place, economically, to
it
say
does.
the least, and
It
it knows what it's saying, and I can appreciate what it's saying, and the way it gets there does work.
It's certainly more direct, maybe cleaner.
Yeah, which
They're saying different things, but maybe what you're saying is the movie is saying it more efficiently, like more.
that's yes,
Maybe more explicitly.
I would yes,
Yeah.
it definitely is, and it works. It works.
Oh,
I think
God,
the book
I'm
also-
waffling here. Oh, man.
Ooh, we got him. No, I got him back. But anyway,
Oh,
no, it's
no.
good. We should disagree. It's better to disagree. We don't have to agree.
No, I love disagreeing with you.
Yeah, exactly. I
Don't
don't
get me
wanna-
wrong.
hey,
And
Don't,
then my,
don't
and then
come
my
to my
take
side.
and then my take is push. No,
They're the same.
a perfect split.
Yeah.
I think, and here's the thing, I think they're both high-level works. I recommend both of them.
Oh, I
Yes,
also recommend both.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I recommend watching the movie first, though.
Yeah.
I recommend watching the movie first. I think, and it's not because of the M. Night cheese, which would almost be like, well, you know what, the M. Night cheese, then not immediately dogs it. But I'm going to give it to the book, and I think it's because...
Take that, Tyler.
I think,
Overruled, buddy.
I think it's because of...
I never wavered.
And it's funny to do this on a podcast where we've just exposed everything, but I think it's because of the surprises. I think that the story the book is telling is more surprising, more original, and
Yeah.
while I even think that I agree more with Shyamalan's point of view, and I think my personal feeling is that the sacrifice for 1 billion people is probably greater than being like, but then again, you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe if I wasn't single and I was in a relationship where I was like, it's the two of us versus the fucking world,
Yeah.
and the two of us versus Armageddon, maybe that would change my point
Also,
of view too.
to be fair, the Armageddon is way more definitely happening in the movie.
That's true.
Way more definitely happening.
It's true. But I think the book's approach is so surprising
Yeah.
in a way that like drew me in. Like I was a bad boy. I didn't do the homework assignment until mostly last night. I basically read 170 pages of this 270-page book last night.
Yeah.
But
You deserve a medal. It's beautiful.
but when the story started going the other way, like after Wen died and everything started changing, I was like, oh, I am propelled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
this-
that's the same because I'm not as bad as you. I finished it 2 days before, but I was definitely putting it off. I was like reading it here and there. I was enjoying it, but I was like, I'd rather just like watch TV.
Well, also it's
'cause
funny
I'm
because
lazy.
like so much of the book is pretty much the same as the movie. That
Yeah.
they're just like, I get it,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah,
skip
blah.
to the
whatever,
end
yeah,
and see what happens. Yeah. But yeah, once that chapter happened, and I was like, oh man, this guy took the choice away from them. This is a different beast altogether.
Yeah.
I also finished it from that moment on, like that day.
Yeah, that's same. Because you really want to know where it's going to go from there.
Yeah.
it's yeah.
So it's funny. It's almost like
Which I wonder if would be the
Yeah.
case if we had read the book first.
yeah. I wonder.
Maybe.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So I feel like I disagree with the point of view of the author, but I think what he's made is like much more interesting, and while Shyamalan's craftsmanship is like, he's definitely bounced back. Like, we got the craftsmanship, baby. This is definitely a story well told and worth enjoying, and the performances are great, many of them. You can probably figure out who I'm talking about otherwise, but
I'm sure she's lovely in person.
I feel so bad.
No comment. We're making a podcast in Hollywood. Come on, no comment.
They all were great. Lovely people.
But yeah, I just think that because of the bigger swing, so that's what it is. The bigger swing, I think is going to have my heart a little bit more. So yeah.
I respect that, but I
big
also
swing Tremblay.
I like a double just sent right down the line. You know, I don't.
I
It
do
doesn't have
too.
to be swinging for the fences every time, and that's definitely what it is. I mean, it is just like he roped that double right down left field line, but you know, it's
Whereas
Those are sports, in case.
or you know, meanwhile I'm
Tyler
over in the
Sporting.
movie Tin Cup here. Kevin Costner just shooting that shot 12, 14,
off the rails
16
here.
more
wants to
times.
hole out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
know sports references if they're in movies.
Yeah. Football, steak, American pie. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But there you have it. So our first episode, we have established by a vote of 2 to 1. I was going to say 2 to 3.
Yeah.
That's not true. Of 2 to 1. That in this case, The Cabin at the End of the World is a little bit better than Knock at the Cabin, which is a very solid film from director M. Night Shyamalan. Thank you, listeners, for being with us here on the Skylight Books podcast series, and hopefully we'll be back for another delightful chat.
Yeah. If you want more episodes, come by The Cabin at the End of the World. It's the only way we'll be allowed to make more episodes.
4 at a time, please.
Yeah. As many. Keep saying, oh, I listened to
And
this
your
podcast.
Your outfits better be on point.
Yeah, bring your own mesh mask.
Perhaps red. Yeah, with button down. Exactly. So, anyways, 1818 Vermont. Come by the books.
Nice.
Catchphrase here.
Keep it booky.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Skylight Books podcast series. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to check out the book featured in this episode, or others, please visit skylightbooks.com. If you're in the Los Angeles area, stop by for one of our live in-person author events. You can find a calendar on our website. If you like this podcast, leave us a review. It really helps us out. Our music is by Duck the Piano Wire. Till next time.